Welcome everybody to Funeral Nation episode 100. Yeah, 100. You did it. You got it. 10. That's fantastic. 10 times 10.
How about it?
Mr. Harbison, the commander, the funeral commander. I got so many names for you. I don't know what to call you, but some are better than others. But it's I am humbled that like you and I knew we would get to 100, but we never really planned anything big because we kind of knew we would get here. But what I didn't fully intend is that we would have the impact that we've had on the profession as quick as we did with this show.
Oh, it's no doubt. I mean, if you look at Ryan, the people that are reaching, we're not only here in the United States, but internationally. And in fact, we're going to talk about it a little bit later in predictions. They're talking, our message is resonating and people watch what we do, what we say. We're bringing the most up-to-date, quick content to the industry weekly that you have to wait for otherwise. Sure. And it's good stuff. We've had great guests. I think finishing up the year with some of our, I'm not going to call them bloopers, but how you finished up with number 99 was awesome. So, we can't do this without having Jamie and his crowd there at the Fast Funding Group. So let's acknowledge and thank you, Jamie and Fast Funding. Folks, bottom line is get your money. The funeral's not over until you get paid. So if you've got a funeral's lasting 90 days, you're in trouble, right?
That's right.
Roll that promo, Ryan.
All right.
What payment method do you prefer families use for your goods and services? Most funeral homes and cemeteries prefer cash check or credit card over life insurance as the preferred method of payment. However, families who use life insurance are able to purchase the funeral service of their choice and spend 31% more on your goods and services. By encouraging more families to pay with insurance, you can create a better experience for the family and become more profitable without increasing your call volume. The reason most firms prefer cash check or credit card over life insurance is that insurance companies are a hassle to deal with, and payment can often take weeks or months to receive. With C&J Financial, you can receive funding within 24 hours of verification of benefit, thereby eliminating the hassle, headache, and cash flow delay in processing insurance death claims. Let us show you why hundreds of funeral homes all across America choose C&J for their assignment funding needs, and why many associations, accounting firms, and industry leaders recommend C&J to their clients and members.
All right, Jeff. So on today's show, I donned a special hat for episode 100, but also it serves a purpose. It is like literally 0 degrees in Ohio today, and the wind is blowing, so this keeps the ears warm and the head warm. It's all fuzzy lined inside, so special hat.
Which is opposite. I live out here in Paradise where it's going to be 73 today. I've got this hat on all the time, covering this well coiffed, and you got to cover up those ears. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. That's right. So on today's episode, we're going to look back at predictions that we made at the end of 2017 or the beginning of 2017, whether or not those came true. And then we're going to make some predictions for 2018. And then you've got a few other things up your sleeve a little bit too, right?
Yeah. So let's get right into it. In 2017, my biggest prediction was consolidation. Well, guess what's happening? We saw that certainly with John McQueen being acquired and consolidating with the Foundation Partners Group. We've seen some pretty aggressive acquisitions with those folks. I believe Minnesota, they had another big one. We're seeing purchasing by SCI with some larger family-owned firms that we never thought would happen. And so the world's changing. Yeah. It's if you're either aligned with someone now, or you're going to be aligned with someone for survival mode. And I'm not saying necessarily bought out in that mode, but using strategic alliances for operating from purchase power to pick any subject out here is going to be necessary.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think my top prediction last year was on technology and funeral directors embracing technology and more drive to be socially active and embrace social medias as well. That is happening. Gosh, I mean, it could always happen faster, and I think we're going to see more of that in 2018, absolutely. But you want to talk about our predictions for 18, or we want to save that for a little bit, little on down the road?
No, I think let's go ahead and predict what we're going to predict.
Okay.
I tell you, my number one, and it's probably the scariest part of all, is that I predict that we're going to see some funeral homes closing, that are going out of business, not because of a lack of business, but because the lack of someone to acquire them, and the inability to make the changes necessary, which is coming up in my second prediction there. So we are dwindling. I think we've dropped 10% the last couple of years of funeral home doors that are open. And I think that's going to be an accelerated factor. Funeral home owners want to sell and to move on and retire, but there's an issue going on, is that who are they wanting to sell to? If the big consolidators or someone's not buying, or they don't have someone ready for succession, a family member, a key person, that pool is going to be pretty small, because we're dwindling also in licensed professionals. Yeah. So I predict this year that that's going to be a story. This time next year, it'd be interesting to see how many have dropped out and closed their doors.
Yeah, it's a reality that we can't ignore any longer, and the fact of people are always going to die, so we're always going to be in business. You still got to make good business decisions, and it just doesn't happen all the time. So my top prediction, Jeff, I went with technology last year. I think that's obviously a number 2, but number 1, I think we're going to start understanding what the future of the funeral home looks like. I don't think that the funeral home, the way that it is today, what we think of as a traditional funeral home, the Taj Mahal Chapel and on the fleet of cars and these great big multi-million-dollar facilities, I don't think those look the same in the future, and I think we're going to see more conversation about that this year. Not in a sci-fi way. I think that's the far extreme, but more as in, we're seeing more and more storefront funeral homes open up. We're seeing more and more of, I know a lot of our clients have very small funeral homes in a storefront where they meet a family, but then they have these life celebration centers that are not like a funeral home, and they have swimming pools in them, and they have all these different things that they use them for other things than just weddings or funerals, but like weddings and banquets and things of that nature. We're just seeing a metamorphosis of what funeral homes are going to be because of the consumer demand. And I don't think that it's what we want or that funeral directors want to happen. It's what consumers are demanding happen. And at some point, the conversation has to go to us trying to put ourselves out of business versus the consumers doing it for us, and finding what's going to be next and not being reactionary. And right now we totally react versus dictate, and the profession's got to do a better job of getting out ahead of the consumer and not always following and reacting to the consumer.
Right. And you're right on point, because interestingly, that's going to be my second prediction, is that the consumer is going to continually to define where we're going as a business. Yeah. So there's 2 options. There's one for funeral homes to embrace, learn, and adapt and overcome. Or, as I go back to number 1, they're going to close at some point. I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, but, again, the bottom line is that we have to provide what consumers are looking for. And it's not a price issue.
Right.
Listen to me out there. It's not a price issue. If they're rejecting your funeral home if they're doing something else. That's the truth. Okay. So it's not because of their price. If it was priced, there would be nobody watching us except for a bunch of body wholesalers. Yeah. That's just not the truth. There's still people who are paying and doing a great job in this business. And kudos to those funeral homes and owners out here that are stepping up and taking the lead for others to follow. But my concern is that we have to change the model, and that model isn't, as you just said, what it looks like. We have to listen and work really hard to pay attention and adapt as it goes through. Another prediction from you?
I think we're still going to see technology play a huge role in what the future of a funeral home looks like. There is an art project that's being funded out in California that we're going to feature some content on Connecting Directors. That is, someone's being commissioned to create a virtual reality funeral home and what the funeral home of the future looks like from a virtual reality standpoint. Now we are getting into sci-fi things, but technology in the funeral home and whatever the funeral home looks like, technology is not going to stop playing a role, and neither is social media and the ability to have a conversation and engage with the consumer. It's amazing to see how many conversations we have through our clients, on behalf of our clients, on Facebook Messenger, where consumers are, the first call is happening through Facebook Messenger. It's not happening through them picking up the phone. They are sending a message, my dad just died, what do we do? What are my options? The conversation gets in depth. I think we're going to see technology from the form of chatbots, which may be a buzzword that a lot of people watching haven't heard, but it's more of an automated virtual assistant where the consumer can have a conversation with an automated chatbot through Facebook or through your website, where they basically go through that first call, and you are having that exchange of information happen automated on the consumer's time. So, I don't want to be the guy that's always beating the technology drum or the social media drum, but it's can't be ignored. And we're in phase 2 of the industry really embracing it. I think everyone kind of understands the importance of social media. Now they're starting to try to figure out, okay, how does it apply to funeral service? Because it obviously isn't going away. And that's exciting to see.
I don't disagree with you. And, something as a note out here for our fellow followers and FNers is, just because you're not doing it doesn't mean it's not being done.
Exactly right.
Again, I'm a baby boomer. I know it's interesting because you're, whatever you are, Gen X, Millen X. Are you a Millen X?
I'm right on the edge of both.
Okay, yeah. So I'm right on the edge of old. But the point being is, just the folks who are making decisions for the baby boomers are you guys, right? Your age group. And if you're not spending time connecting with them and conversing with them and communicating with them on their level, you lose. Okay, that's the bottom line. You said that really well. I have another one I want to kind of pull out, and I think we're going to see more this year of litigation involving funeral homes. And when we have one that's been ongoing a little bit, but just kind of surfaced, where a funeral home gave out cremated remains of someone to a family that wasn't theirs. Yeah. Okay. Have y'all ever heard of training? I swear it can knock that out, and process and procedure, but I don't know what I'm talking about. If you don't do training, get yourself a good lawyer. The other piece I think we're going to see this year and actually address, I think, in the More You Know minute, somebody asked, is I believe we're going to see more funeral director employee lawsuits.
Okay.
Because this overtime thing and not paying attention to it. Hey, guess what? Sexual harassment is pervasive. Hey, I hate to call it, but just see this year if some of that stuff doesn't surface.
Yep. No, you're right on. I don't disagree with anything you said.
Well, it's kind of hard to, because I'm sober today, so it's hard to say what I'll come up with is somewhat cognizant. Speaking of which, we got a prediction that came out, I heard from another medium out here.
That's right.
We have a mutual friend. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. I'm just going to talk about him just a little bit. But a guy named Bill, through another funeral medium, made a prediction that you're going to be smoking a cigar at your studio before the year's out. What do you think about that?
I'm going to say that's an absolute no, that is not going to happen. A number of different reasons, but one is we are in a rented, leased office space where no smoking is allowed, and I need more office space, so I can't afford to get kicked out of here. And my wife would highly disapprove, and so would my children. So I can tell you it's not going to happen.
All right, so I'm going to take those two off a level, and maybe this could possibly happen not in the studio, but in another venue. And then if you blamed it on the funeral commander, then your wife and children go, "Oh, okay."
Man, I don't know if that excuse works anymore.
Yeah. We're not going to talk about that as a prediction of what's going on this year either. All right, so let's talk about some of our biggest news that we had this year.
Yeah, so we
2017.
we looked at the most read news articles that were posted on Connecting Directors for all of 2017. So the most read number one news article of 17 was Matthews International ex-cashier stole $9.5 million over the span of, I think it was 11, 12, 15 years, something like that. $9.5 million spent. Majority of it was spent on boats and Louis Vuitton handbags.
Hey, you know what? If you're going to take it, look good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mine will be spent on cigars, rum, and golf. So
Not bad, not bad.
I must be getting something somewhere because that's all I spend it on now. What's the second most read story?
Second most read story was Frank E. Campbell Funeral Home mixing up ashes, that lawsuit. And so you're talking about litigation. That was a big story simply because, that happens a lot, but this funeral home serves a lot of high-profile clientele. And I believe that this cremation was a very, very expensive funeral. Without going through here, I mean, close to $100,000. Is that right?
Yeah.
It was a pretty big deal. So that was number two. The number three story, Matthews back in there again. Matthews International being sued for $5.75 million. So Matthew twice in the top five, Matthews Aurora. And then number four was gay man sues funeral home for their refusal of his 82-year-old husband's body. And that one was clicked on quite a bit, but that one got a lot of comments. And I don't know. We only know what was reported in the news story, so there's two sides to every story, obviously. But I think this is a conversation that isn't going to go away. And it's gonna be a decision that most funeral homes are gonna have to face at some point. And I don't understand why funeral homes just their job is to serve the family and take care of the deceased regardless of preference. So I don't understand what the big deal is there. But that was a funeral home making the news when they didn't have to.
Not in a good way. And that kind of goes back to my prediction of training and human resources issues, right?
Yep.
I mean, if that's not in your policy, what do you do up the chain of command? I mean, that's scary, folks. It's a different world out here today. And so if you don't have it written down, it's interesting. Dan has shared with me when he's been on some cases where he was an expert witness. And if you think you got it together and your only resource to go is your employee handbook, you might want to read it if that's your defense.
Yeah. Yep.
That makes sense?
Makes sense. So rounding out the top five most read news articles of 2017, Jamie Lee Curtis to star and produce a new funeral home comedy series on CBS.
Good. That'll be interesting to see how that turns out.
Absolutely.
I think we got a number 6 that probably most people didn't know, but finding out that Peyton Manning was a celebrity crush by kind of a guy, it's a big deal. And the Martha Stewart thing, I still throw up in my mouth every once in a while. That was kind of big news last year, and it's what?
What? Yeah. And your reaction to both of those got some commentary through episode 99, where we kind of highlighted some of the best celebrity crush moments of 2017.
Yeah, I think it was good that we were recording in my office / studio versus at my favorite cigar and libation place where I've had a few, because I think I would let a couple fly there. But anyway, it was a great year behind us. We got a fantastic year ahead of us.
Yes.
I think we do have a mail-in question for the minute.
Yeah, and it's a question for you, Mr. Commander. So this comes from Let's see. Stacy in New York. More you know minute question for you, Jeff. I saw something about a change in minimum wage for 2018. Where do I find out more information?
Great question. If you don't have a human resources manager, that's where I would start. You can also go to our friends at the online with the government to find out what your state has or your local organization. Make sure also that you have to have these new rates posted. Ryan, in fact, I'll send you something if you don't mind posting on Connecting Directors,
Yep.
where it addresses every state and what those minimum wages are. We can send that out from the Foresight Company.
Absolutely.
Stacy, if you have a question, just email me or give me a call, and I'll be glad to help you with it.
Awesome. And the More You Know Minute question was brought to us by our other big sponsor of 2017. Love these guys. Sirius Chan at Sitch Casket. As we are disrupting the funeral space with what we do here in Funeral Nation, so is Sitch and what they're doing with casket distribution in the United States. A great product. I look forward to seeing them at every convention because you never know what their booth is going to entail and what they're going to be doing. So let's roll that promo.
Hey Jeff, hey Ryan, congratulations to your 100th episode. You guys been doing a great job. Let's rock the industry.
All right, Commander. It's kind of the end of episode 100, a big milestone that, I don't know. I feel like when we first started the show, you and I talked about episode 100 being, maybe something that we do live somewhere and we get together or we try to plan it in conjunction with a large convention. And you know what? It just, I don't know. That's kind of not us. We expected it to happen. We expected to get to episode 100, and it's a great thing to celebrate. But you know what? Next week we're going to have 101, and 100 is going to be over.
That's it. It's interesting that we've, through 100 episodes, it'd be interesting to go back and look where we brought these episodes from because we don't miss a beat.
Yeah.
I've been overseas. You've been out. We've been in different places. And we just feel as a team, this is important for funeral directors and the funeral followers and the folks who are out here following us to get good information on a weekly basis. You don't have to wait for something to come in the mail and it ends up on the back of a toilet, right? So this year we've got some great guests lined up. We've got some new things, some new twists we're going to do. The way that we're presenting is going to be a little bit different. We got some survey stuff that's still coming in. We're listening to you. And send your suggestions in of what you'd like to see. We might even sponsor a seminar or two between the two of us. That'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it?
It would. We're making waves. We're going to not stop making waves. Just excited. It's this show has taken on a kind of a life form of itself. It's gone in different directions than you and I initially anticipated. And like I said, it took off. Immediately we were getting bombarded after episode 1 of, I can't believe you're drinking and smoking on the internet, to now people are disappointed when you're in your office and you're not tipping one back and puffing on something. But it's,
I can promise you I'm going to work really hard. One of my resolutions in 2018 is to smoke and drink more. So I promise you I'll be back on the saddle.
I don't even have a response for that. So with that note, let's wrap up 100. Next week's 101. We'll figure out something awesome for 101 just like we did for 100. Until next time, have a great effing week.
Here, y'all.